are live. How's it going, everyone? I'm here with a special guest today, Kyle Samani of Multicoin Capital. And just for a little background, we won't go too far into context, but prior to founding Multicoin, Kyle co-founded and ran a startup called Pristine that built software for Google Glass for use of surgeons and other healthcare, which was later acquired by UpSkill. And for just some context on Multicoin, we'll let Kyle get into it a little bit as well, but they're most widely known for participating in Solana's seed round. So what better fit to have Kyle on at the Mountain Dow Hacker House here building on Solana. So with that being said, we're going to jump in here with Kyle. And how's it going, Kyle?
Hey, Greg. Great to be here.
Yeah,
that was a pretty awesome, man. I got here yesterday, and this is a fantastic venue. Got to hang out with a bunch of cool builders. Love what y'all are doing here.
Yeah, man. You've been hot commodity around here. So great to get you on. And just to kick things off, do you want to give some context on Multicoin, how it's developed over the years, and really the role you guys play in the ecosystem?
Sure. So, yeah, I founded Multicoin in 2017 with my co-founder, Tushar. In that time, we've been through bear market, lighter stages of the last bull market, obviously this current bull market. And in that time, we've kind of tried to figure out what we want to focus on. And we've discovered our kind of sweet spot as an investment firm. And that is really asset selection. So we spend all of our time reading, thinking, learning, understanding what's going on in the space, and then buying stuff that we like. We're always pretty well known for Solana, but also done a lot of great stuff with Graph, with Arweave, with Helium, with a bunch of others as well. Today we have a 16-person firm. We manage billions now across our hedge fund and our venture fund, and we're always looking to invest with great new entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's great. And just to keep this moving forward, you referred to it as the Web3 stack, which is this term that's been popping up, Web3. Everyone's been throwing it out. It's actually where we're starting to posture our media company towards the entire Web3 sector. How has crypto developed since you jumped in? It also seems like you've always been more of a fan of Ethereum and the stack that's been building on these smart contract layer 1 networks. So what are your 2 cents on how you're seeing this all develop and what it means for crypto?
Yeah, so I think I don't think I coined the term Web3 stack. There was a couple people who had probably written about it before I had, but I think we probably did the first real good illustration of what it looks like, and presented it out there. I think in the first version I did in maybe 2018, and the second version in maybe 2019. And one thing we kind of realized as we drew out the stack was just kind of watching all the team is building in and around the space. Fast forward a few years, and we've really seen, I think, a few kind of major trends. One is the world's become much more multi-chain. Obviously, the Ethereum ecosystem, Polygon, Solana ecosystem is probably being the largest at this point. And then I think the other thing we've seen is just the stack itself is so heterogeneous. So all these different pieces are being built by different teams. What's interesting is the contrast this with, let's say, iOS or Android, where you have one pretty small group of people at Apple or Google who are making all of these decisions about the stack. Here, it's actually a pretty small number of people. This is a very large number of disparate groups who are kind of building the stack out as a whole. And that's just super exciting to us because I think it reflects the decentralized ethos of the space, and obviously lets people invest in whichever parts of the stack that they kind of most like and understand, which is also really cool.
Yeah, so building on that stack, you touched a lot on composability. I'm curious, do we see this? I mean, the layer 1 trade keeps proliferating, right? It's like the next one pops up and everyone jumps on it. Do you think these are going to start to consolidate as composability comes in? Or what does this sort of look like as the technology progresses? Currently we have bridges. I don't think that's the end all be all of composability. What do we need to get to reduce all this friction?
Yeah, so bridges will help. I don't think bridges will ever be as good or fast or inexpensive as an intra-chain transfer form. And it does. I think a lot of other people also probably agree with that statement. Maybe there's some breakthroughs, you never know, but at least based on my current understanding, there's not a real way to do that stuff better. And so given the reality that bridges will always be some sort of added source of friction, developer cost, latency cost, gas cost, they're always going to be kind of expensive. My sense is that we will start to see consolidation around a handful of chains, maybe 2 or 3. I think it's very likely Solana is one of them. And as there's more stuff happening on that chain, that creates more state for there to be stuff to happen on top of. So kind of one of my favorite kind of recent frames I've come up with to think about the problem is, right, like a blockchain is useful for keeping track of who owns which coins, basically, is what these things do. What's really interesting though about chains is that, assets rather, is that there are certain assets that actually have mathematical relationships to other assets. So derivatives are kind of the most obvious example of that, right? Where you've got funding rates, you've got leverage, obviously liquidations, all these kinds of things you have to think about. I think that what's very clear is that the more mathematical relationships you have between certain assets, the more value there is in bundling those pieces of state together. And that's what really excites us about Solana, is because everything lives in a single shard. You can make it all just work together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Makes a ton of sense. That's something I've heard a lot of people talk about, how right now everyone's just trying to figure out what blockchain is innovative and works. So you're seeing all of these spread out, but apparently, or once you get into these bear markets, you're going to see a lot of them consolidate to the most innovative as time starts to tell. And on the sense of tying back towards that Web3 stack and derivatives, what are your guys' foci on the stack, right? You have on-chain and off-chain things, but specifically on-chain, you have things proliferating like social tokens, the Metaverse / NFTs, and DeFi. Where are your interests at Multicoin? Maybe a little bit of all of them.
Yeah, so we invest across all these subject areas. We have tons of DeFi stuff, a bunch of NFT stuff, and a bunch of now, I would say a bunch, but at least a handful of social token related things. So we're certainly interested in all these areas. The newest social tokens and the least developed. I would say it's also probably the most interesting as you think about product market fit. On one hand, the idea of being able to invest in a creator is quite compelling. On the other hand, it also introduces a bunch of interesting new dynamics around, are people here for the profit? Are they genuine fans? And it's going to be hard to parse those things apart. I think I'm optimistic that social tokens will be a thing, but I think probably the exact form they take is hard to know today.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And on this idea of social tokens and Metaverse, they're fairly early sectors in crypto. How do these tend to play out from you seeing them?
I mean, if I have the answer to that question, I would feel a lot more comfortable with how it's all going to work. These things, you can never know everything in advance. There's always some degree of risk and unknowns. I'd say I'm very excited about bundling NFT, social tokens, and DeFi together. I think as you combine those things, you get a lot of interesting new stuff emerges. I think there's going to be a lot of people building apps that kind of leverage all of the above to do cool new things.